there was a point where like I wasn't official in the band yet, but I had like written stuff for demos and I had like put a lot of time and emotion into like the project where I was like, shit, like if this doesn't work out, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know?
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time on the channel, hit subscribe right now. Kyle, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. So they didn't like your Hawaiian shirt idea for the cover, right?
Right. Yeah, that unfortunately got shot down. I don't know why, but
I mean, shouldn't Metal Today, couldn't Metal Today use a little bit more color?
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah, maybe we'll save it for the next album or something. You know, I'll keep pushing.
There was another post that you made not too long ago, I guess, that I thought was interesting and felt very relatable to me, where you shared that, hey, you know what, 2021 was pretty great for me. Like a lot of good stuff happened to me. Got married, congratulations. Obviously,
yeah, thank you.
A certain band, enlisted you as well. The realization that the world is in a crappy place and a lot of that is being challenged by a lot of people. A lot of people have to deal with demons that they didn't even knew they had. That is a weird position to be in, to feel like, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, was that a challenge at all for you dealing with that or balancing that out?
Yeah, it was, I think mostly just kind of a coincidence. It's kind of like you said, like a lot of things sort of just happened to come together for me in that same year. I don't think it was like because of, COVID or anything else that was going on, of course. Just coincidence that things just happened to kind of come together then.
Yeah, I wasn't insinuating that you were happy that people were dealing with
No, of course, yeah. No, of course. But it wasn't even like as a result of most things that were going on. I think it's just that combined with like, I was just lucky to not be hit as hard as some people too, right? Like a lot of people lost their jobs. Like I was able to keep fine during that time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it still sucked in some ways, of course, but I don't know. I think all you can do is kind of just, help out people and your friends where you can and just kind of be grateful for what you do have.
And obviously one of those elements is that you joined FALLUJAH as the new singer, not just yourself, Evan also, new addition to what has been a pretty stable band. If you look at the history of lineup, there's always some changes, but it's a pretty stable core. That's never easy. Was there that first moment that you and Evan both went like, oh shit, like what are we getting ourselves into?
I can only speak for myself on that really because Evan lives sort of on the other side of the country from us. So like I had never met him until he was already involved with the project. And actually the first time I met him was when I went to record the album in September. So by that point we had already been writing stuff. I mean, a lot of his parts were already tracked at that point too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for him, Evan's been in more bands, so I'm sure for him, it's like, oh yeah, another, another band, another new group of guys to work with. For me, it was definitely like a different kind of process, just stepping into something that's so much more established, that's so much more, this has so much history behind it too. It's like, the band has been around for so long and done so much by this point. But no, it was good. I mean, like, there was, I'd say the closest thing I had to that was like, there was a point during my audition process where like, at first it was just like, okay, here's a cool opportunity. Let's just throw ourselves at it and kind of see what happens, like just, like it'd be cool to try out regardless of what happens. But there was a point where like, I wasn't official in the band yet, but I had like written stuff for demos and I had like put a lot of time and emotion into like the project where I was like, shit, like if this doesn't work out, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, whereas kind of like a point of no return for me. Where, I mean, that sounds kind of dark, but you know, like there was just a point where I had like invested enough of myself in it to where I was like, okay, like this needs to work out now.
As a singer, you know, Evan, you know, his instrument is so important to the overall sound of a band, but quite literally is more in the background. There's nowhere to hide as the front man.
Sure.
But the singles that have been released, lots of good feedback, a lot of people very positive about your singing as well. I know every artist says, I don't read comments and I don't care. I have a feeling that you've been reading a few comments and that you feel pretty good about what you've read.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I won't lie. I mean, I do read comments and I do care. You know, not that would dissuade me from doing whatever I want to do with the music, right? But again, feels kind of lucky in the sense that what I do want to do with the music seems to align with what people are liking about it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm sure everybody else in Fallujah feels the same way. You know, it's like we're just trying to make the music that feels the coolest to us, you know, in terms of what we want to hear and what we want to do with the band. And but you're right, the reception has been really positive, so that's awesome. You know, it's like clearly there's some overlap between what we think is cool and what you know, a lot of the fans think is cool. So that's been really good so far.
There's clear callbacks to older albums, but then there's also a lot of fresh new things going on. New lineup, newish sound, or somewhat of different direction. Are the two correlating? Is there an impact on that journey because you and Evan joined, or has that impact been a little bit more limited given the first album?
No, I'm sure that's correct. Yeah, it's you know, like with Evan too, Evan wrote his own parts. Like I know he had some guidance from Scott. Like there were some sections maybe where Scott said like, oh, do this or do that. But but for the most part, because I was with Scott some of the times when Evan was sending his like demos or kind of initial ideas over to Scott, and there were so many things that Evan wrote for the album that were just nobody expected. You know, like parts where I would have assumed that the bass would probably just follow the guitar riff, like he'd probably just double the riff an octave down. So many times where he does something totally different, but it still fits, and we're like, oh, that's so cool and like so different, you know. So I mean, talking about Evan first, like he for sure had his own impact on the album, and which I'm sure is part of the reason why Scott wanted to hire him on the album in the first place, right? Like the first reason that he wanted Evan's playing on there is because he wanted to sound like Evan, right? Like we don't want to bring in somebody like Evan and then make him just you know, follow orders from the people that don't actually play bass. So I mean, yeah, he for sure had an impact. For me, I would say it was like there were elements of both for sure. Like there are parts where I kind of did my own thing, sort of regardless of like what Fallujah has done in the past. Parts where I'm just like, when I hear the instrumental, this is what I want to do over it, and that's what I think would be the coolest. But then apart from that, like I didn't want to just have that kind of attitude the whole time, especially since it was an album that like when I joined the band, the instrumentals were already written, the album had already been worked on for like a year or two at that point. So like it's not like I was coming in fresh to it. It's like the guys, I mean, of course they already had their own sort of vision for the whole album, right? Because they've been working on it for so long already. So I did want to be conscious too of like making sure that it still sounded like Fallujah, you know, in the sense of I spent a lot of time just really like listening to and analyzing the vocals from the old albums, just to think about not just even like tones, but like the sort of rhythmic phrasing and like tendencies of both of the old vocalists, and just being really conscious of that, and just understanding it to the sense of where you know, where I could say like, okay, like this album had, you know, sounds like Fallujah in the sense of like what has already been established by the band, but then also there's still room to do my own thing and disregard that completely, right? So I would say it kind of depends on the song and the exact moment, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure Evan and I joining did, you know, influence sort of a new direction somewhat as well.
Like a lot of bands these days, or a lot of artists, there's now also a Patreon community around the band. finding new ways to engage with fans, which as more and more tours come back is not always going to be super easy to keep moderating stuff like that. But
Sure.
is that just a fact of life of being a professional musician in 2022?
I don't think it has to be a fact of life, but I think it does make sense for a lot of different reasons. It's like, one, I think that like FALLUJAH does have fans that like want to support us, which is amazing and awesome, and it's like, it kind of gives people a way to do that. But also we do have, I feel like, apart from just us wanting support, right? Like we do have, I think, a lot to share on there also.
Yeah.
Like, I know for me in particular, I have so many like interesting things to share from the album process that wouldn't really make sense to just put out publicly. Things like demos, things like isolated tracks of, like there are a ton of like synth parts on the album that probably nobody will ever notice until I show them like the isolated like synth tracks. There's a lot of things are kind of mixed in and layered in and buried just to kind of add to the vibe. But so like, for example, things that I want to like share with people in there are like, here's kind of what's going on behind the scenes, all the layers in the songs. Like here are like old vocal demos of like completely different versions of the songs that ended up on the albums with like different lyrics and different parts and stuff that I think are like give kind of interesting insight to the process. But again, like you probably wouldn't be sharing rough kind of raw recordings like that normally. But the Patreon is an awesome place to do that. It's like, it's kind of for the people who, want more content from the band that have obviously like heard all the stuff that's already out there and would be interested to still kind of see more beyond that. So yeah, I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. We've only had it for like less than a month now, at the time of us doing this interview. But yeah, I think we have a lot of things that we want to share on there, and hopefully people will enjoy sort of tuning into that.
Talking about layered music, what is sometimes the biggest challenge for atmospheric, melodic, technical death metal bands is then transforming that to a live show and making sure that with sometimes stripped down versions or with some magic behind the scenes, you can bring this to life in real time. So let's talk about shows, tours, and so on.
Sure.
All the people watching this video that are counting down the days for the new album to come out, and hope to see you guys play on stages very soon. What can they already know? What can you share with them?
We're still figuring out some details of it. We're going to play a lot of new stuff, so you can expect to hear definitely mostly new music. I would say I'm sure there'll still be some old songs in there, but a lot of new material, maybe all of the new material. We'll see.
Awesome.
So that'll be cool. It'll be the same lineup as the last tour we did. So we have Sam Maradian and Killian Duarte filling in for us on guitar and bass respectively. So that'll be cool. That felt like a really, really solid lineup for the last tour we did. And people seem to enjoy seeing them, so they'll be back. That'll be cool. I don't know. I mean, we'll have some new stage visuals as far as like the whole banner and all that stuff we've been working on. But yeah, we're still figuring it out. We'll see. I'm sure if you ask me like a week before the tour, I'll have more answers for that. Yeah, a lot of new music. That's the main thing I'm looking forward to is, especially because it's like our tour starts 2 days after the album drops. So like we're going to be all hyped on the new material. Hopefully other people like the new album too and they don't mind hearing all of it live. But kind of what we're planning.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, I look forward to those shows and you guys taking this exciting sounding also album on the road and giving you the opportunity to there's been a tour before, but to properly introduce yourself as the new singer of the band. So super exciting times ahead for all the fans and for you in particular. Kyle, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I'll count down the days with you, and I hope you'll have a fantastic release cycle.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Awesome.
And, this has been fun hanging out.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.